I muted. Welcome to Pieguys Pick'em. Week 14 of the NFL season is upon us, and boy, was Week 13 profitable. Going from slight red to solidly in the black for myself. One of the best weeks I've ever had. Cashed 2 futures bets, along with a bevy of single game bets. And of course, highlighted, we talked about this last, but highlighted by the Chicago Bears winning outright against the Philadelphia Eagles on Black Friday. The best bet lost. And I think the Dolphins -5 lost. But other than that, it was a beautiful Sunday. The Steelers not to be trusted as we start with our Around the League segment. A lot of people have dubbed this the year where nobody's real. I don't know about that. I think there are some real teams. I think they just started slow or had some injuries. The teams at the top are the big question. Are the Bears real? Are the Patriots real? Are the Broncos real? I'm pretty sure the Rams are real. But even then, they went and lost to Carolina. So it's a wide open NFL. Anybody could win it. And that could pose well for, well, not anybody. I mean, like the Jets, the Titans, the Browns, the Saints. Those teams aren't winning. But anybody with a pulse who's live to make the playoffs could win it. Any of the 14 teams that get into the playoffs definitely could win it. So we will start with a team who's in and a team who still alive somehow. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. This game was supposed to be 425. It got flexed out in favor of the first place Chicago Bears, which is interesting. But I get why they did. The Packers, I mean, that's probably the biggest Packers-Bears game in a long time. All right, since the 2008 NFC Championship game, I think is the last time this was somewhat relevant. Bills 5.5, 6-point home favorites. The total 53.5. The Bills destroyed the Steelers. It was a horrible best bet. 26-7. They outgained them 5 to 3.9 yards per play. 372 total yards for the Bills to 166 total yards for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 26-10 Bills in first downs. almost 42 minutes time of possession for the Bills. Each team had 2 turnovers, so the Bills will turn the ball over a little bit. James Cook ran all over them. But consider the passing game's not there. I mean, James Cook led the team with 33 receiving yards. Now, nobody else was over 30. Now, again, they were up most of the game. So, if you can run, just run the ball. Why not? So that's the counter argument. 244 rushing yards combined between the running backs and Josh Allen. Now, it looks like Dion Dawkins. The concern last week was the offensive line. Dion Dawkins is going to be back this week. Though the other tackle, Spencer Brown, he's questionable. Terrell Bernard, limited participant in practice. Josh Palmer's doubtful. And also questionable is Dalton Kincaid, and Joey Bosa is out. Which matters because Cincinnati's weakness has been the offensive line and obviously the defense. So the defense was all right on Thanksgiving. They come off extra rest. They beat the Ravens 4-8, but the first place in their division is 6-6, and they just beat them. And they've beaten the Steelers. I think they split with the Steelers. I think they already played both games against the Steelers. I know that, because there was the Unk Bowl, and they split those games. Joe Burrow still hasn't lost a game this season. Every game Joe Burrow has started under center, the Bengals have won. They're 3-0 with Joe Burrow in the lineup. Obviously, he will be back this week. So will T. Higgins, from what it looks like. T. Higgins has been cleared to play from concussion protocol. Trey Hendrickson, I don't know if we're going to see this guy again as a Bengal, as whatever. Who knows what's going on with him? Nobody knows. All the reporters are scrambling to find some information on Trey Hendrickson. Who knows? Maybe he went off to one of Aaron Rodgers' quiet places, those houses. The defenses looked better. Okay, we were on the show at the beginning of the season. I said, I'm not buying that the defense was bad, but then it became bad. Now it's kind of okay again. It's still bad, but it's not. It's not it's still pretty bad. I don't know if I can say anything nice about the defense, but Baltimore's offense is not very good right now, and they were good enough to hold them to 14 points. Though they had some help. There was that fumble, of course, by Likely through the end zone for a touchback, and there was a penalty that offensive pass interference penalty that helped them out a little bit. Was it offensive pass interference? I don't. It was a close call, but still, I think it was it was unnecessary. Anyways, the Ravens taking stupid penalties. I'm on the Bengals here, so the Bills got me last week. Okay, I faded them last week and they won and they smashed, but the Steelers were awful. Okay, the Bengals are awful. The Bills are going to win again and smash again, but 6 points. I mean, Buffalo laying 6 points. Nobody's real right now. I mean, who's maybe against the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns, some of these bottom teams, but the Bengals with Joe Burrow haven't lost a game yet. And there's supposed to be snow in this game. And remember, there was a snow game in Buffalo where the Bengals went up there and they beat the Bills in the playoffs. And that was the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, I believe. And why did they beat the Bills? Well, remember we talked about the Bengals' weakness somewhat being the offensive line, one of their weaknesses. Well, in the snow, it's very easy to block because you just have to kind of stand there and all the defensive edges have to slip and slide and you don't really have to move as much. And it's very hard to get a good pass rush going. So I lean to the over here too. I just don't trust the Bills' offense. I don't. Snowver, I talk about snow as an over, and they should, this should go up and over the total. But look, they scored 26 last week against Pittsburgh, and they dominated that game. It's a run-heavy offense, and I know the Bengals' defense has been, not very good, but I don't trust the Bills to score here in this one. I think there is potential for another 26-14 Bengals win here. Not that I'm taking them on the money line, though I am considering doing it, but I think the 6 points, this should be close. Joe Burrow's never out of a game. We've seen horrible Bengals defenses, bad offensive lines his whole career, and he's made comebacks. He's found ways to win. And the Bengals, the Steelers lost last week. They beat the Ravens last week. They play each other this week. If they win this game, they'll still be 2 back of the division leader, whoever wins that game. They still play the Ravens again. And obviously the tiebreaker against the Steelers. We'll see about that. It depends on divisional record. So I like Cincinnati here. I think this is too many points. 6 points. Buffalo shouldn't be laying 6 points. And I said the snow, in my opinion, favors the Bengals. There's going to be snow showers likely throughout this game. And I think that favors the Bengals because it's going to protect that suspect offensive line with the pass rushers slipping and sliding all over the place. Not to mention no Joey Bosa. So give me and Spencer Brown not playing might not matter as much because of the snow. We talked about the backups were good last week. But if Spencer Brown isn't playing, it could be another run-heavy attack for Buffalo. So I'm not on the over. The Snover, I like it, but it's too high. The Buffalo, they don't have receiver weapons right now. It's Shakir is looks he looked a little bit slow last week. When he's not there, there's just no. And Kincaid is questionable. It's just they're a little bit banged up, and this could be low and slow. So Bengals +6. Lean to the over, but I'm going to stay off. As we move along, Washington, Minnesota. Washington 1.5 point road favorites. The total 43.5, 44. I've never seen a team be as satisfied with a loss as the Commanders were on Sunday Night Football. Back-to-back overtime losses. And Dan Quinn and the boys are very happy with their performance. Now, granted, it was against the Denver Broncos, who are 10-2, but fraudulent 10-2, some might say. The Denver Broncos, they're winning, but they're winning ugly. We'll talk about them in a bit. Jaden Daniels is expected back for this game, which is flipped the line. I think this was Minnesota -2 earlier in the week. Daniels is expected to be back, so it's flipped Washington favor, which makes sense. So Mariota was playing well. McLaurin was great despite having Surtain on him. I benched him in fantasy like a moron because Surtain was on him. And then of course I lose my week because of that. And now Drake May's not playing this week, so I'm in big trouble. So Denver outgained. Washington outgained Denver by about 17 yards, but Denver outgained them in yards per play, 5.8 to 4.9. It was a pretty even game. Otherwise, the stats that Washington was every bit in that game that the overtime suggested. Minnesota, well, Max Brosmer, went full Will Levis on us in that fourth down where he chucks a prayer, and you knew as soon as he threw it up, you knew it was going back the other way. Full Will Levis, Max Brosner. The Vikings were shut out. I think it was 26-0. Easy win. We had the Seahawks -11. Easy dub. McCarthy set to return. I've talked about this before. A young quarterback who sits back and watches a quarterback play, who he's better than, can sometimes make these guys better. He's better than Max Brosner's awful. We know this. He was horrible last week. McCarthy hasn't been good, but he has legs. He's able to run, and watching the worst quarterback can sometimes, make these guys better. Now, I would prefer if it was a veteran quarterback that was mediocre that he was. That's more the angle I like. When you see the mediocre, you say, oh, okay, these are some of the pro things he's doing that I'm not doing, right? But I'm better than him at doing them. I have more athleticism, I'm younger, et cetera, et cetera. I have the higher upside. He was watching, a rookie, so not the same. I am watching the Minnesota injury report very closely this week. If I find out that Christian Darrisaw, starting left tackle, and Donovan Jackson, who are both questionable right now to play, if they're in, I'm betting the Vikings. The Vikings off a shutout loss. Now, we talked about the shutout loss in September. I like a little bit more the shutout loss in November, December. But this is the team with pride. Okay, this is a team that was expected to be good. A lot of players on this team. You're at home. It's going to be a good environment. The Commanders are coming off Sunday Night Football game where they're satisfied with the loss. I know Jane Daniels is back. Sometimes the good player coming back doesn't work out the way you think it does. Now, the team's on a losing streak, so like Cincinnati was, why I liked them last week. So maybe it does, but if Darrisaw and Jackson play, even if one of them plays, I will bet the Vikings here. I plus the 1.5, because this game could go to overtime and Washington could win by 1, like we saw Denver do last week. This could be a close game, but Washington going on the road after a Sunday night game, want to play JJ McCarthy and the Vikings. I know, I like what I'm hearing from them. I think it's a good spirited team, but again, when we saw earlier in the season, these veteran players can quit. They've got the quit has been. Dan Quinn has gone in there, got the quit out of the Commanders. So, but, it can come back after, a couple of satisfying losses, as strange as that sounds. So, I like the Vikings here, but I need one of those linemen in. At least one, preferably Darrisaw. But if one of them play, or both, I will be on the Vikings. This is the buy low. The Vikings defense is pretty good. The Commanders defense ain't that good. Despite the Broncos were able to move the football pretty well, I thought, last week when they called some good plays. So I like the Vikings here, but again, I'm waiting. I'm not betting. If both linemen are out, it's a pass. I can't do it because young quarterback, we need protection, right? You need protection. And even the Washington's pass rush isn't that good. Like, Dan Quinn's going to dial up some blitzes. We know that. So Vikings, if one of the injured linemen are in. One or more. All right. Now to a big game. Big game down in Jacksonville. Colts, Jaguars. Jaguars, 1.5 point. Home dogs. The total 46.5, 47. The Colts are in a bit of a skid. They've lost a couple in a row now. They were leading the AFC. Now they're 8-4. They're at risk of missing the playoffs. Houston is on their tail for the wild card spot. They just lost to Houston. It's jammed up there. Buffalo's probably going to make it in. the Chargers could fall too. So there's quite Jacksonville. There's teams that could fall out, but if the teams who are in right now or maintain, Houston's knocking under, Kansas City's knocking under. You just lost to both of those teams. The Dolphins have an outside chance. So you have the tiebreaker there. So the Colts are in a little bit of trouble here. Danny Dimes is playing hurt. He doesn't look like he did a few weeks ago. I watched a lot of that Texans game last week. That was kind of the marquee game in the early slate. Sauce Gardner didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. I'm pretty sure he's going to be out. I'll just double check that right now. And of course, the elephant in the room, the Indianapolis Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014, over a decade since the Indianapolis Colts have won a game down here in what we call TK land, Tony Khan land. But no turnovers by the Colts. They were outgained. They outgained Houston in terms of yards per play, 5.3 to 5.1, but they were outgained by almost 80 yards or so, 364 to 281 for the Texans. No turnovers by the Colts. Very fewer penalties than the Texans. The Texans take a lot of penalties, but 3 of 10 on third down. Houston was 6 of 13 on third. A lot of the results last week, you look at the box scores, third down is the team that did better on third and fourth down is the team that won the game. So third downs being crucial, and both teams are 0 for 2 on fourth in that game, the Texans and the Colts. The Jags thumped the Titans. It's no big congratulations. 25-3. They were also very bad on third down, 3 of 13. But they're playing the Titans, and they had 98 yards in penalties, 13 penalties for 98 yards. They were but they outgained him 4.8 to 3.4 yards per play, almost 1.4 yard per play. No turnovers from Trevor Lawrence. Good to see. Injuries though for the Jaguars. Parker Washington left mid game. He practiced limited, I believe, yesterday. It looks like, but they are getting reinforcements. Of course, they traded for Jacoby Myers. He is expected to be back. Or not to be back. He's been really, really good. He's made a big difference. It looks like Sauce Gardner. He didn't practice all week, but it looks like he might play. I'm gonna have to look into that because that could be. I was looking at Jacoby Myers props when I saw Sauce Gardner. So what's this? So I'm just. I thought he wasn't going to play, but I don't see an injury designation. Oh, come on. Oh, he's ruled out. Okay, they just didn't pop up. Okay, yeah, Sauce Gardner's out. That's what I expect. He didn't practice all week. Walker Little is the injury concern. The big one for the Jaguars, the offensive tackle. He's in concussion protocol. I believe he's out. He's been ruled out. Yes, he has been ruled out. And also safety Andrew Wingard, also in concussion protocol. He's been ruled out as well. So I'm concerned with the Jaguars' injuries, especially that Walker Little injury. Parker Washington isn't 100%, so he's questionable for this game. So I'm not, this was going to be a Jags. I was going to bet the Jags here pretty easy. I think it's a bad matchup for the Colts. The Jaguars' offense should be able to get going here. The Jaguars' defense might be all right at stopping the run. Liam Cohen, I think he's figured out his quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, we know Trevor Lawrence. It's first read or it's a problem, and I think Liam Cohen's figured that out. He's getting guys open on the first read. So, with the 11-year history, you're getting plus 1.5 here. Team that's struggling with the Colts versus a team that's on the rise like the Jaguars. I have to take Jacksonville here a little bit. It's not a big play. And I've been on the Jags quite a bit this season. I love their win total cash last week. I have them to win the division already, so I don't really need to put too much on this. I bet them at the beginning of the season, I believe 3 or 4 to 1 to win the division. So Jags plus 1.5 for me. Not a full unit, but close to it. Probably about 2/3 of a unit for myself. Jags plus 1.5 official play. Pie guys pick them as we move along. Saints, Bucks 8.5 point home favorites. The total here 41.5 to 42.5, depending on where you're shopping. The Saints were dominated in that. Don't let the final score fool you. The Saints were horrible. There was 16-0 Dolphins in the first half, and the Dolphins fell asleep because they stunk in the red zone. So the Saints, I guess you could say good red zone defense. I don't know about that. I think it's more Miami's red zone offense, but it's possible. And Tyler Shook was okay, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, but your rookie quarterback, he's going to throw a couple. 2-1 isn't bad. Kamara's out. Fuaga, the tackle's out, and the safety Reed, all out, all impact play. Oh, maybe not Kamara, but the other two impact players. Baker's playing through injury again. They barely beat the Arizona Cardinals, but they got another win. This feels like what the Bucs do every year. They barely beat some of these teams, and they look pretty good against when they play. They look like a threat when it comes playoff time. They were outgained by 1.4 yards per play. Arizona outgained them 6.3 to 4.9. Arizona had 22 first downs to the Bucs 13. But turnovers, Bucs had none. Forced 2 from the Cardinals, and 7-16 on third down, 1-1 on fourth. Said the third downs and the turnovers are what are winning right now as we get into November, December, when it's harder to score, a little bit colder. The defenses are playing pretty good right now, especially in the red zone. But so we talk about the Bucs midseason swoon. They were able to buck that a little bit last week against Arizona. I get a little bit of a cake opponent in the New Orleans Saints, and you got Carolina putting pressure on you. That big win over the Rams by the Panthers. The Bucs still have to play the Panthers twice. I don't know what the Panthers are. The Panthers are on bye this week. But you got to win this game for Tampa. You can't be throwing away divisional games. Not with the Panthers on your tail. Not against New Orleans Saints of all teams. So, I think there's going to be urgency for Tampa, but I can't lay 8.5. Baker's hurt. Tristan Wirfs is questionable. There's no McMillan. There's no Evans. Bucky's back. The values on the Saints, especially the Baker injury, but I can't get there because I think there could be urgency for Tampa this week with that big win from the Panthers last week. They could make sure, they could give. It's a divisional game. We got to win this one because Carolina's on our tail. We can't. We got to win. In case they split with Carolina, you need that divisional tiebreaker. That would be the second tiebreaker. So, it's a pass for me. I could see a world where the Bucs win and don't cover. I could definitely see that because I think this number is too big. But at the same time, the Saints, like I said, it was 16-0 Miami. Don't get fooled by the final score. Yes, the Dolphins fell asleep and almost blew it, but that's the Dolphins falling asleep, not the Saints necessarily playing well. Pass. All right, speaking of the Dolphins, Jets, Dolphins 3, 2.5, mostly threes now. Point road favorites, the total 41.5 across the board pretty much here in this one. Yeah, they should have covered if you watch that first half. It was all Dolphins, but 0-2 in the red zone, as I mentioned. Couldn't get a big enough lead. And now they're going outdoors to play a team. Jets come to play, the Jets, team who knows them, thorn in their side, rivalry game. Outside, where Tua, in the cold, where Tua's been stinky Tua the last few seasons. Benito Jones didn't practice on Thursday. I doubt he's going to play. But other than that, and Hill, of course, they're a fairly healthy unit. The Jets are coming off a win. So, now they didn't win 2 in a row this season, but there was a bye week in between. So they haven't won in back-to-back weeks. The third win of their season over the Atlanta Falcons. I need them to somehow win 3 more. This could be one here. They were outgained 4.3 to 5.8 yards per play, and they had 9 penalties for 59 yards, and somehow the Falcons lost that game. Almost like it's the Falcons. And Atlanta was 3 for 3 in the red zone. But they were better on third down, the Jets, and they didn't turn the ball over. Turnovers and third downs. This is going to be a repeating theme because I'm like, how did the Jets win this game? And then you realize, third down percentage. One team's punting and the other team is scoring. And there was an emphasis after the game that the Jets need to play better despite the win. Like, they weren't impressed with their effort. So maybe this isn't a letdown, but it's a bad team off a win. I lean Jets here. I'm very close to taking the Jets +3. I don't think Miami they've been good, but 3 on the road in the cold. I've seen this movie before. But at the same time, I don't want to take the Jets off a win. I could have taken. I talked about last time that I like the Jets here, but I don't really want to take the Jets. Now it's the Jets off a win. It's even worse. So, what I do like here is the under. I mean, 2 in the cold. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be any good. And at the same time, I don't trust the Jets to score, 20 points back-to-back games. The Dolphins' defense shut out the Saints in the first half. Why can't they do the same to the Jets? It's not like the Jets' weapons are Garrett. It's Adonai Mitchell's been pretty good, but everybody else, it's a bunch of guys you never heard of. What I do like is Achane again. I mean, Achane was great last week. Jets run defense without Quinnen Williams. The Falcons ran all over the Jets last week. It's going to be cold. I expect lots of runs from the Dolphins, and I don't expect the Jets to really, take a big lead and force the Dolphins to throw on every play. So back to the well. Achane over 82.5 rush yards. Achane over 113.5 rushing plus receiving yards. Both of those plus probably. I might split a full unit. I really like Achane in this game. So it's probably a full unit split. So half a unit each. And then a full unit on the under 41.5, because this is going to be like, so either Miami is going to win like 20-0 or 20-3, or it's going to be a tight like 16-13 kind of game. Miami's been an under team last few weeks. It's been the Dolphins defense under Anthony Weaver's got this unit playing well. Chop Robinson's been excellent. It's Chop Robinson season right now. He's been fantastic. So under and Achane props is what I like in this game. Yeah, 41.5 is too high. This should be like 39, especially with the weather. We're going to get New Jersey on Sunday. All right, Browns, Titans. Browns 3.5, 4-point favorites. A total 33.5, 34. No, this is not the preseason, but both quarterbacks might be preseason quarterbacks in a few years. Though Cam Ward was all right against the Jags, 28-4 of 38, 141 yards. But like the Bills, nobody had over 30 yards receiving. The Titans don't have weapons. I mean, Ward's got a bad offensive line. Lord Cushenberry didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday. He's probably out again. So that's one of your better linemen. And look, Cushenberry isn't anything to write home about, but he's pretty good for some of the other guys in the Titans offensive line. But at the same time, you're like 3.5, 4 with Shadur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. Like, come on. I mean, they did outgain the 49ers in terms of yards per play, but guess what they were off on? Third down. 3 of 11 on third down, 0 of 2 on fourth down. I feel like I'm repeating myself. They lost 2 fumbles. They didn't run a play in the red zone. I mean, there's a reason this total is 33.5, 34. I mean, this Browns team, both offenses are horrible. The Browns defense is really good, but the Titans defense is meh, which is why I guess the Browns defense is the best unit on the field again. It's like the Vegas game all over again, where it's like, well, could the Browns defense win this by themselves? And the Browns offensive line, two linemen, Wyatt Teller, the guard, Jack Conklin, the tackle, both injured. I don't think they're going to play. I'll double check the updates on this as we're going, but they're hurt. Tight end Brendan Bates is hurt. Defensive end Aiden Huntington is hurt. Devin Bush doesn't look like he's going to play. It's injuries in the trenches for the Browns, which has been their strength, for the past few seasons. Doesn't look like it's an up. Oh my! Like this injury report for the Browns is massive. It's massive. Cushenberry's out. You can't bet the Browns here, but I'm not betting on the Titans. I can make a case. Cleveland can't be favored by 4. Cleveland can't be favored by 3.5. But I can't put money on the Titans. This is the easiest pass on the board. No one's gonna watch this game. Like, if you really need action on this game, I don't know what you under. It's so low. Just watch something else. Go for a walk. Do something. Move along. Seahawks, Falcons, Hawks. What is that? That number's wrong. It is plus. Hawks are about 7-point favorites. There are 6.5s on the board if you want to pay a little bit of juice for the Seahawks minus 6.5. The total is 44.5. The Seahawks shut out Max. What's his name? Broswer, the whatever, the rookie quarterback we're going to see for the Vikings. But Darnold didn't play well again. This is now what, three games in a row. He's been mediocre. Now the rest of the team is playing great. So it's the old Tua. Back in the Dolphins were playing pretty well. Tua didn't do much. Well, Tua didn't need to do much, and Darnold didn't need to do much. Like 26 zip. Why are you going to chuck it downfield? Just take the safe route, get a dub, and go home. And they're getting healthy everywhere, the Seattle Seahawks, and that's a problem because this team is very, very good. One of the elite teams in the league. But, they're going east. Early start game, 1 p.m. And the Falcons are coming off a loss to the Jets. And, it's not much more embarrassing than losing to the New York Jets in the National Football League. A fumble by Jamal Agnew. Who would have thought that? That guy's been fumble machine for years. Special teams fumble for the Falcons. And inefficiency on third down. Repeating. Cost them the game. London's still out. Drake London's not going to play in this game. David Onyemata is questionable. They have a little bit of cluster injury at defensive end. Is that both his backups on the depth chart are out. So if Onyemata is out, this could be trouble for the Falcons. They're going to be, fourth, fifth string guys on defense. Now, obviously, they could shift people over, but you don't really have the rotation now. So that's a bit of a concern. However, 7's a lot on the road. Darnold's not playing well. This could be a close game where the Seahawks defense gets them the win. And if that's the case, 7, like you're going to win by more than a touchdown. I know they killed Max Brosmer and the Vikings last, but he went full Will Levis and handed them that game. He said, "Here, Seattle, have your win and cover." And that's exactly what I expected to happen. Kirk Cousins could do that. Don't get me wrong, but the Falcons played pretty well last week. It was a couple of third down weren't good, and like I said, Jamal Agnew fumbling, which is routine for him. So Falcons plus 7. Yeah, it's Raheem Morris is still a moron, but the number, man. I'm betting the number here. My numbers say this should be closer to 6, 5.5, not 7. 7's too many points. I think getting a touchdown here at home, it's not the best spot for Seattle. I know they only play. I think they play Indy next week. It's not like it's a big look ahead spot, but the Falcons should show up here. I think the Falcons are going to give Seattle a good game. Get a nice win. Maybe not get a nice win, but be competitive. Feel good about themselves. Maybe they lose by 3-4. Maybe Darnold goes full. So I'm not trusting Darnold right now. Last week was surely like, well, the Vikings aren't going to score. That's exactly what happened. The Falcons can score. So if even if Seattle gets to 26 again, the Falcons need to get 20 for me. We get the cover. Falcons plus 7, not the biggest bet, but I am on the Falcons, and that's always an adventure. Anytime you bet the Atlanta Falcons out, it's an adventure. A few weeks ago, I think they were playing Carolina. Like, I got the win and cover. They found a way to lose. So, the Falcons. All right. Steelers, Ravens. Ravens 5.5, 6-point home favorites. A total around 42.5, 43. There was some Yinzer magic on Sunday, so I wasn't completely wrong. But the team just stunk out loud. Aaron Rodgers was awful. They couldn't run the football. The defense couldn't stop the run. The Steelers, it was so bad. The Steelers fans booed "Renegade." That song they play in the fourth quarter. Or I think it's the fourth quarter every game. They never boo "Renegade." They booed it last week. It's trouble in Steeltown right now, and I think Tomlin is on his way out, but we'll see. I believe he's the longest current tenured head coach in the National Football League. Safety Kyle Duggar, defensive tackle Derek Harmon, and backup tackle Calvin Anderson have all been ruled out. So a few injuries here for the Steelers, but on the other side, Lamar Jackson. Like the Ravens again are being priced like Lamar Jackson's an MVP form. He's hurt, The Ravens offense isn't working. When it is working, they're making mistakes, fumbling the football, offensive pass interference, taking penalties. They're not. When it is working, they're not executing, and then for most of the game, it's just not working. I mean, that was the Bengals' defense last week, and as they're a little bit improved, I think, over the last couple of weeks. But they're still the Bengals' defense. You should still be able to beat them with Lamar Jackson, Jerick Henry, your offensive line, your Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, all of these great Ravens offensive players. It's not working, but the defense is working. The Ravens defense is working. They've been very, very good. They're the reason they're in first place in the AFC North. It's the defense. Baltimore has won 2 in a row against the Steelers by 14 at home. But one of those was a playoff game. So this is a playoff revenge spot. This feels like the raw Tomlin game where the Steelers are gonna. This might be the Yinzer Magic special. The Steelers playing, Tomlin. If he can't get the Steelers up for this game, he should just why is he the coach? This is they do this every year. These tough games against the Ravens, against the Bengals, against teams in their division are good teams. They show out and they pull off an upset. Tomlin gets them up. That was a bad performance. Mike Tomlin's got to rally the troops here to save his job. I think he will. He's done this every year. They're 6-6. They're 9-8 and winning the division. That's the Tomlin dream right there. Pittsburgh +6. Pittsburgh money line. I know they were the best bet last week. They got blown out. But I'm going right back to when you bet on a team, they get blown out. That was their F- performance. I don't think to cover this number against the Ravens, B, C might do good enough. But I think we can get their A game. I think we will see the Steelers A game. We get the Steelers A game. They're live to win this game. So Pittsburgh +6, and I'll sprinkle on some Pittsburgh money line. This is it takes some balls to go back to the window with the Steelers after what they did last week. But like I said, they got blown out. They couldn't have played any worse. Tomlin's going to get out for this game. I trust them one more time with Mike Tomlin. I don't know how many more chances they're going to get. And they're on the road, so the pressure's off. You're in Baltimore. Baltimore's not playing great. It's a little bit of both. Steelers +6. Steelers money line. All right, talk about teams not playing great. The Denver Broncos are taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh boy, the big clown attraction in Las Vegas. Who needs real clowns? You got the Las Vegas Raiders. Chip Kelly gets fired, and the Raiders have still 3.4 yards per play against the Los Angeles Chargers. 2 of 8 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down. Gino was sacked 4 times, threw another interception. Offensive line was still horrible. I mean, this team's still a disaster. Brock Bowers scored 2 touchdowns, and Max Crosby had 2 sacks, and they still lost by 17 in cover, 31-14 L to the Chargers. Genty 2 yards per play. It's like Chip Kelly's still there. Even when the plays being who knows? Maybe they're still calling the wrong plays. I don't. Was it Greg Olson? What a great job you did. At least he got Brock Bowers 2 touchdowns, I guess. But the offensive line is horrible. It's a disaster. The Raiders are. I bet on the Raiders in this spot against the Broncos on that Thursday night football game in Denver. I said, well, the Broncos can't be laying. And, the Broncos were awful, and the Raiders were equally as awful, and the Broncos won by a field goal. The Broncos are the kings of winning ugly this season. I mean, they're 10-2. They don't deserve to be 10-2. Come on. They're consistently. So last year, the Broncos is chalk. They would win and cover. They were so good as chalk. When they played the bad teams, they buried them. This year, they're winning ugly against the bad teams. DJ Jones, Zach Allen, 2 of their good. Their defensive. The whole defensive line is very good. They haven't practiced. I'm gonna double check the injury, the updated here. I checked this a few hours ago. Obviously, Denver being Mountain Time. They were outgained the Commanders 5.8 to 4.9 yards per play in that one. So no, I could probably find it though. Michael Mayer is out for the Raiders. The Raiders have, they already don't have very many playmakers. It's Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. The Thornton guy's out, Michael Mayer is out. So it's literally Brock Bowers. Now, if Denver scores 10 points again, maybe Brock Bowers has 2 touchdowns, he could beat the Broncos by himself. But how do you back either of these teams? I mean, you can't lay points with Denver right now. They can't win. They're not covering. Okay, Zach Allen will play. So I don't think DJ Jones is going to play, though. But Zach Allen will play. Yeah, I can't bet either team. Lean under, but at the same time, I worry. So the Raiders were 2 for 2 in the red zone. Both of them went for to Bowers. I'm worried if Vegas does get in the red zone, Bowers can score, and then it's a low total. Like if the Raiders get to 14 here, and then Geno throws a pick 6, that's 21 points from the Raiders, and then you only need 20 from Denver to get over. So I'm going to stay off this game. I mean, you can't back either team. There's no way I'm betting the shit show that is the Las Vegas Raiders, pardon my French. But at the same time, I mean, you can't lay chalk with Denver. Easiest pass on the board, in my opinion. Like I'd rather bet Tennessee than either of these teams. All right. Rams, Cardinals. Rams 8.5 point road favorites. A total 47.5, 48. Well, it feels good when you bet the Rams team total over. It cashes and they lose outright as 10-point chalk, allowing 31 points to the Panthers. The turnover-worthy plays Matt Stafford's been getting away with. He didn't get away with against the Panthers. 2 interceptions and a fumble. And they still got their team total over. 7.4 yards per play for the Rams. Carolina's 5.8. But they couldn't stop the run. I mean, Chuba Hubbard has 83 yards. Dowdle had 58. Bryce Young added some. I think it was almost, you get about 150 yards between the 3 of them. You can't be allowing that. The Panthers need to run to win. They did. Cardinals played pretty well against Tampa, but like my notes here, I couldn't even write down how many Cardinals were injured. I said, go look at the injury report because it's nasty. Walter Nolan is on the injury report again. I don't think he's going to play. I'll load it up here. But like it's so long, it's taking forever to load. I mean, look who's out. Okay, out. Trey Benson, running back. Greg Dortch, wide receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr. is out. Quarterback Max Melton's out. Defensive lineman Walter Nolan's out. Safety Dadrian Taylor Emerson, he's out. Defensive line LJ Collier out. DeMarcado, running back, still out. Christian Jones, offensive lineman, out. Xavier Weaver's questionable. So wide receiver Xavier Weaver. He might be wide receiver 1. Who's playing for this team? Give me the Rams. I mean, the Cardinals, there's nobody left. And you gave your best effort last week and you still lost. This team can't buy a win. The Rams just got embarrassed by the Carolina Panthers, lost that game. Arizona's got nobody. And it's a divisional game. And the Rams have owned the Cardinals with McVay for years. This is the golden spot. Give me the Rams -8. And half a unit on the Rams team total over. It's 28.5 now. So, if it lands 28, I don't win. But back to the half a unit Rams team total over. Full unit Rams -8. The Cardinals, they're just injured. It's like they played fantastic last week on paper. Outside of they threw a Brissett threw an interception and they weren't couple of, I think maybe third down again. I don't have the notes here. It's in the Tampa game though. But anyways, they played fairly well last week and they still couldn't beat Tampa. So the Rams coming off a loss against a team that's battered and beaten like this, like the Rams are going to win by 10 or more. Like they could really blow them out of the water here. Rams -8. Rams team over 28.5. And they need the win. I mean, San Fran and Seattle honored. You can't lose to the bad team of the division. Same thing, just like the Saints Tampa game. Like you can't lose to the Saints. You can't lose to the Cardinals. All right, the big main event of the weekend. The winner of this game will be first place in the AFC North, potentially first place in the AFC if the Cardinals pull off the major upset, but I don't think that's going to happen. Bears, Packers 6.5 point home favorites, totals 44.5. Now that Black Friday spot was fantastic. I mean, I was all over. Keith told me to put 2 units on the money line. I should have listened, or he said I was going to. It was a spot of spot. I mean, the Eagles, it's like crumbling right before our eyes. The Bears undervalued in the market, catching 7 points. But I mean, cash 3 bets in that game. Bears money line, the Bears on the spread, and the Eagles team total under. All 3 easy cashers. I mean, the money line was a little bit harder, but they won by 9 points. They're the number 1 seed right now. The Chicago Bears, the NFC, 281 yards on the ground. The Ben Johnson rushing attack is really, really working. Outgained Philly 425 yards of offense to the Phillies 317. Though they were outgained, they only had 5 yards to play. Philly had 6.2, but that doesn't matter when you're running the football at will and you hold the ball for 39 minutes of possession. Like at one point, yeah, but you had to throw the ball. We were just running. Yeah, the Philly run game didn't really work, I thought. Defensive back Tyreek Stevenson, linebacker Ruben Hippolyte, and wide receiver Roma Dunze, all out. So, some impact injuries. But Jalen Johnson's back. Kevin Byard is playing. He's been playing well. And TJ Edwards, he's back. Remember, he was hurt. So, you losing a linebacker. TJ Edwards is back, though. So, it's not cluster injuries. Dunze will hurt in the passing game, but you still got, if the rushing attack is working for Chicago, should be fine. You still have, who are there? DJ Moore. I still have DJ Moore. You still have Loveland. You still have, Komet. Or is Komet hurt? We have one of them. So, there's still targets. Plus, we know the strategy for years against the Packers, run the ball. We saw with the Lions the last game, we get 24. But it was a close game, Lions-Packers, but the difference was 4th down. Packers 3 for 3, Lions 0 for 2. The Packers going for it, This is not the same Packers team that I was calling the Cowards in week 4 when they tied the Cowboys. Jordan Love's playing great. He's 18 for 30, 234 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Lions. Bears a little better, more turnover. They're more, they take chances, force turnovers, but they're good at it, the Bears. Again, won the turnover battle last week. Jacobs, 4.8 yards per carry for the Packers. Wicks, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. Watson, 80 yards and a touchdown. They got pass catches. They got guys who are getting receiving yards. Like I said, Jordan Love's playing excellent. Javon Billard, safety, and Lucas Van Ness didn't practice. They're probably going to stay out. And the big news, of course, Devontae Wyatt out for the season. The guy who basically Micah Parsons. If you got attention on him, he's the guy who's been on the other side. Has been very, very good in getting the sack when you're doubling, tripling Micah Parsons. So that's a big, big loss for the Packers defense. And this total is 44.5. And what do we? Both offenses are playing fantastic right now. We 44.5. The Packers defense isn't that good. It's great against some of the lesser teams, but this is the 9-3 Chicago Bears. I see the commentary still getting disrespect. 6.5 point underdogs. It's a joke. And the commentary's been, the defense is getting turnovers. They're not that good. Well, if the defense isn't as good as what you think it is, why is this total 44.5? This is an absurdly low total. Give me the over here, 44.5. Both offenses are working. I expect the run game to work for Chicago. And I know the Dunze's out, but they can get to the tight ends. He can get to Moore. He can get some of these other wide receivers they have on their roster. And I have to play the Bears again. I'm not as last week. It was like a team you were backing on a big hot streak, still getting disrespected against a team that's crumbling, and it was a bet on versus a bet against. So the Packers aren't as bet against as they were, but 6.5. You got to bet the Bears here for at least a unit. I don't think I'm going to play I might play a little money. I think I'm just going to stick to the 6.5. This is a tough, the way the Packers are playing now. I wouldn't be shocked if the winning streaks was snapped a little bit here for Chicago. This is the toughest game left on their schedule. My opinion. They still play Detroit. They play Green Bay at home. I expect, I think that one I might be more interested in the Bears. I'm still betting them. Like I said, I'm not writing them. The number's too big. This should be, 3.5, 4. Maybe okay. It's Lambeau. It's going to be cold. I didn't look at the temperature, but does that really matter? Chicago's going to run the ball. Chicago's run game is just as good, if not better, than Green Bay's right now. Now, Manon guy's a little bit banged up, but they still have, DeAndre Swift. I'm not really sold on. But it's fine. Like DeAndre Swift and whoever else they call up from the practice roster or wherever, like running backs, it's the scheme. And without Devontae Wyatt, especially, I think the Bears rush game should work, which like Bears plus 6.5 and the over 1 unit each. Keep riding the Bears. The Bears train has got us this far. We're gonna stay on it until I'm forced to either the market gives the Bears the proper respect or the Bears start playing like the market is rating them. Right now, they're playing much further, way ahead. And Jordan Love, he's been great, but he can throw some picks, and the Bears, they've been good at forcing these turnovers. All right, Sunday Night Football, Texans, Chiefs. Chiefs 3.5-point home favorites. Total 41.5 to 42.5. Shop around if you're betting the total here. I mean, you can already tell what I'm going to be on if you've been watching the show. I mean, I'm on the Texans plus 3.5. This was the first bet I made. You can get a better number than I got right now. I mean, still 3.5. I think I had a little bit of juice. I was worried it was going to go down to 3 because, it's a bad time to get offensive line injuries when you're playing the Texans. Because my goodness, the monsters of Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. all over. Going to be all over Mahomes in this one. They got into a shootout with the Cowboys. Like, come on. Like, I know. Okay, Detroit got into a shootout with the Cowboys last night. I understand, but the Detroit Lions, like they know how to win shootouts. You're the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, you won shootouts before. Yes, you can win shootouts, but you didn't. You got into Dallas's kind of game, and Dallas almost did it again last night. Came back from being down. But of course, that game was in Detroit or in Dallas. You don't want to get the crowd going in Dallas, getting a shootout with them. I mean, come on. They were outgained by 1 yard per play. Cowboys had 7 yards per play. The Chiefs 6. It wasn't a fraudulent win. Dallas 9 of 16 on third down. Over 50% on third down. Come on, Steve Spain. I know Dallas' offense is fantastic, but come on. 1 for 1 on fourth down downs. They didn't sack Dak. I mean, Dak was back there having a sandwich, make whatever he wanted. And Mahomes was sacked 3 times. Obviously, he had injured offensive linemen. And now you got, the Dallas pass rush has been better. Last few seasons for sure. It's improved as the season's gone along. But this is a real pass rush, and Mahomes is going to be in trouble here. The Houston offensive line is playing better than they were coming in the season. Like, this offensive line is horrible. We're fading. Now they've timed together. You get some continuity on this offensive line. You got your quarterback back. He was watching Davis Mills for 3 weeks. We talk about, I know he's more of a vet job, but still, youngish quarterback watching the veteran backup, handle his business, reminding, hey, oh yeah, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do. They only sacked Danny Dimes once last week, but they got tons of pressure. Like their goal was to bottle up Taylor, and they did a good job at doing that. 4 straight wins now for the Texans, 7 of 9 since starting 0-3. This is one of the hottest teams in the league. The division is in their sights. They still got another game against Indy. I think they still have one more game against Indy. I can't remember. This is another game with Jacksonville. They're in first place right now. And Indy's free falling. Kamari Lassiter, cornerback. Jalen Reed. I think he's a safety, and the Jamal Hill, the linebacker, all didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday. I don't expect Lassiter's a big one. He's a very good cornerback, but Stingley on Rice is going to be pretty good. And like I said, this offensive line for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are laying too many here. I mean, this should be 2.5, right? I mean, if the Chiefs win this game, doesn't it feel like a lot of the time they win it by 3? Like, getting the hook here is so crucial because the Chiefs aren't winning big. Like, they beat the Colts in overtime by 3. The Colts didn't play their best game in that one. Yeah, the big matchup here is Houston's D-line against the Chiefs' line. I know Mahomes has done, Houdini shenanigans. He's figured out, he's gone out of situations. I worry. I don't want anything, but watching Houston play the last couple of weeks, and I worry Mahomes could get hurt this one. These guys are nasty, and if he gets blindsided by one of these big monsters on Houston, like it, and then the Chiefs are just in the toilet. This is a must-win, more for the Chiefs because the Houston, their division is more winnable. Like the Chiefs to catch the Broncos would take quite a bit, especially because Broncos playing Vegas this week, which is basically a bye. Though the Broncos will make it a challenge, so maybe not. But yeah, it's the injuries. It's the hot team. The Chiefs. I know it's backs against the wall. They basically have to win out, but they basically have to win a lot. I mean, you could argue, okay, there's still a chance, right? Because this is the team right above you, and they have the tiebreaker against the Colts, and that's the team. But man, it's just your offensive line getting hurt the week before it's used. Like it's setting up, and Houston's coming in like a house of fire. And it's not like this is Houston's gonna. There's no letdown spot against the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that wins the AFC Championship 7 straight years, won their division 10 straight years. Like there ain't no letdown here. Yeah, Houston plus 3.5. All right, and we'll move along. Final game, Monday Night Football. The Philadelphia Eagles head to Los Angeles, where there'll be more Eagles fans than Chargers fans. Take on the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers plus 2.5. Total 41.5. I'm not going to go over the Chargers stats. They played Vegas. They won by 17, as expected. Vegas is a joke. You could argue, hey, Chip Kelly was fired, and then they still, did what they did. I mean, Brock Bowers got 2, but it's fine. He's very, very good. Justin Herbert, the big news before Justin Herbert had hand surgery, but he's expected to play. And the defense has been solid. Like, if you like the Chargers, like I talked about this a few years ago, you bet on the Chargers, you bet on the defense, or bet on Justin Herbert to play well. I am betting on the Chargers here. But it's not, I am a little bit betting on defense. I am a little bit betting on Justin Herbert to play well. But the most part is I'm fading this Philadelphia Eagles team. I'm fading them until proven otherwise because we talked about it last week. I went over the with Cowboy Keith. I went over that 4-game stretch. This is the same scenario as a few years ago where they had that great start that felt fraudulent, just like they did this season, right? Where it was fraudulent, where their offense was working, but their defense wasn't. This time it's reversed. The defense was working, the offense wasn't. Now the defense isn't working as well. 281 yards on the ground to Chicago. They got some help from Detroit Thursday, so they're the Dallas is going to gain a game on them if they lose this one. But the run game hasn't worked. You have to run on the Chargers. We know this. Now, of course, I know Poona Ford is. I can't remember if Ford left the Chargers or he joined. I think he left. But their running game's not working right now with Barkley or Shipley or whoever they put in there. They were beat everywhere except yards per play and sacks. Okay, they sacked Williams a couple of times. And, Jalen Carter, he's out. Lane Johnson didn't practice. Those are 2 of their best players. They might be their 2 best players. Lane Johnson and Jalen Carter. They're definitely the top player on the other side of the ball. The Chargers are probably the poster boy for a good NFL team. They're not great, but they're a playoff contender. They could beat anybody any given week. No, they're not flashy, but they're solid. Every week, they give you a solid game. They give you a solid effort, and they have talent. They're basically the good NFL team. And a good NFL team right now beats the Philadelphia Eagles. It might be good to get on the road. But again, there's going to be Eagles fans there. If you book the trip to LA, you're not going to go to the game as an Eagles fan. It's just, I worry when I saw the hands. Oh, great. Like I was going to come in and hammer it. I'm like, the Chargers 3 points. The Eagles laid 3 on the road. And then I heard about the hand. I'm like, is Herbert going to play? But he's going to play. It's his left hand. Apparently, he's going to play. It's a little dicey, but it's Chargers money line. I'm not, plus 125. Chargers money line plus 25. I mean, you can find a 3. If a 3 pops up, I might take some 3-2. But this is just fade the Eagles. Everything about this team is that it's right all season. I know they won the Super Bowl. Okay, they won the Super Bowl that was last year. Okay, you have a top end, high end talent on your starters and bad depth. This is and everybody stayed healthy. And you played a fraud. The Chiefs were kind of fraudulent in the Super Bowl. But you have a coach who doesn't have his stuff together all the time. You have AJ Brown, who's wild card, right? Jalen Hurts, and him don't, they're not getting along. There's locker room stuff. You're in a city that has no patience. Jalen Carter's a little bit of he's hurt now. Your strength has been in the trenches. Your strength has been on defense. Defenses get figured out as the season comes along. We want good defenses. We like good defenses, right? You especially, when it gets late in there, but Fangio's defense can get figured out. We've seen this in Miami. We've seen this other places he's been. And this offense just isn't working. I mean, it's not working. They don't have a run. They have good weapons. They have good linemen. They have a running back who doesn't look great, but can be flashy. It's just this. It looks like another implosion, and they still might make the playoffs because Dallas is just they might just be too far behind. Washington, we'll see what happens. They still got 2 games against them. There's not going to be any opportunities to fade the Eagles, and right now it's fade city. If the Eagles win, I'm not, that's fine because maybe we get a good number next week. Maybe we get a good number, but I have to fade the Eagles right now. It's just it smells like, and I am an Eagles fan, and for his sake, maybe they turn things around. It won't be awful, but from right now, this team is fragile, and another loss. Now with Dallas losing, you get a little more leeway here, but if this will be 3rd loss in a row, and especially if the Chargers get a lead, are we going to start seeing sideline fights and what? Like, this is the climate of the Philadelphia Eagles is the problem. And there's injuries, like I said, Carter Johnson, big injuries, but it doesn't feel like a good climate. It feels like trouble. It's the sense you get watching them. Just there was I forget the name of the Petula, Nick Petula. He's no good. He hasn't figured it out anyways right now. So yeah, Chargers money line, simple. Fade the Eagles. All right. Thank you all for watching. If you stayed this long, Pieguy9871 Instagram. If you want to get updates on the show, I have to. The best bets haven't been great. But when the best bet's been wrong, it's been fantastic. I think, is it the I'm debating. It's either the over in the Bears game or the Rams. I mean, like, the Cardinals are so injured, and the Rams are off. It is a divisional game, and you're laying points on the road. It's not the best, but now I'm gonna go with the over here. I'm gonna. Chicago, Green Bay over 44.5. I feel like, like both of these teams are going to get into the mid-20s. This is going to be a good game. This is a reason this game got flexed to 425. Both offenses are clicking. Defenses are good. Both defenses force turnovers. But that could lead to more points. So yeah, over 44.5. I know it's going to be cold. What's the whole? Let me just check the weather before I make this official here. Green Bay weather. Sunday. Oh, sunny. 18 kilometer hour with a little bit of wind. Not too much though. Is it going to be? Well, 14 kilometers an hour. That's not too bad. Yeah. Oh no, it's 10. Yeah, 10 kilometers. That's not much at all. Yeah. Over 44.5. Pieguy's best bet. Green Bears Packers over 44.5. Thank you all for watching. I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed doing the show quite a bit, and I thank all the viewers who do tune in. That's a wrap, and I'll see you next Friday for another edition of Pie Guys Pick'em. Goodbye.